Good morning. I am Chris Steyerwalt, and here are your buzz cuts from Fox News First. Off the top, he's got a pen, but it ain't so mighty. The president today signing bold executive action, raising the minimum wage. Kind of, sort of, not really, but only for like two people, and then only if the rules change, and then sometimes the other thing, and don't worry about it. So we'll talk about what the president is promising to do with bold or not so bold executive action. It's enough probably to at least make Republicans angry, even if it doesn't raise anybody's income. Number two, Senate trio builds consensus for Obamacare alternative. Orrin Hatch, Tom Coburn, and Richard Burr, Republican senators, have a Obamacare replacement plan. It is being picked apart, as would be expected, but has not so far brought down the highest dudgeon, has not found Jim DeMint or those like that calling it socialized something. So far, so good for them as they try to roll that forward. Will it work? Up next, pardon me, Hillary, but do you have any Grey Poupon? Hillary Rodham Clinton, who is not running for president, is not very good at not running for president. In a paid speech to automobile dealers, which was done in this weird seated chair sitting, it was not the way to get down. She laughed about the fact that she had not driven herself anywhere since 1996. Ha ha ha, limo riding, the $100 million net worth, she said. It's been a long time. And then proving that they're not ready for prime time at Planet Hillary. Philippe Rennes, her spokesman, responded to an inquiry about her practices with what I can only describe as a super baduper snotty response. Christie's bridge battle heading to a state near you. Chris Christie's glad to see you. If you are running for governor in Texas, Illinois, Georgia, Utah, Connecticut, or Massachusetts, Chris Christie is coming to town, and he won't be thwarted by the fact that Democrats follow him everywhere, throwing subpoenas and nasty language at him. In an interview with Robert Costa, who covers Republicanism for the Washington Post, insiders in Christie land are sounding bullish on his 2016 runs, and as Costa points out, they say that the field is weak, and Christie is strong. Last but definitely not least, in Washington, we'd pay them not to talk. That is Marshawn Lynch. The Super Bowl Media Day is the mother of all scrums, as members of the national and international press descend on players and coaches from the teams vying for the championship. Today's Media Day near the Super Bowl site in New Jersey will give reporters a shot at the stars from the Seattle Seahawks and Denver Broncos. The Seahawks' Marshawn Lynch wants to avoid all that hubbub, but it may be costly. The New York Daily News reports that Lynch, who was fined $50,000 by the NFL for refusing to talk to reporters during the regular season, could have a very expensive day. The league has promised another $50,000 fine if he skips today's Super Scrum. He's thinking about it, but if he does show, he told the paper, he promises, be bad at it. When you're forced to do something and you know it, it just kind of takes away from the whole experience of what it could be if it were natural. So I'll probably give forced answers. Well, good for you, Marshawn. I think that's good that you're letting everybody know that you're better than this. And those are your buzz cuts. You'd have them already if you were a subscriber to Fox News First, which is free, which is excellent, which is oftentimes includes many words spelled correctly. And we give it to you all from foxnewspolitics.com. Go there, give us your email address. We'll give you the rest. But we're going to do it all right now because it's Power Play.
The kind of help that they need. I've got a pen.
And that was true, technically. President Obama did, as he had it. He had a pen. But can the pen do all that much? This is Power Play. Welcome back, Internet. And you know, I could not think of a better person to be hosting today. I could hardly imagine anyone who we would rather have helping us understand State of the Union Day than David Drucker, who is a senior congressional correspondent for Washington Examiner. He is excellent. And he also today was listening to House Republicans be angry about President Obama's pen. They're angry about all this pen wielding. We point out, however, at Fox News First today, he ain't doing nothing. Like, that's some scratch. He's just like, he's waving the pen around. I'm going to raise the minimum wage. No, I'm not. Right. I argued that the intended goal of much of this is just to make Republicans nutso. Like, get them so... You report already that they're threatening to sue.
Well, Republicans, and they have been thinking about this for quite some time, is trying to figure out if there's a way in which they would have a legitimate legal standing to attack one or more of Obama's executive orders. Now, I don't think that House Republicans will go out of their way to eat up the airwaves and the oxygen of politics with an attack on one of Obama's executive orders. In fact, the Speaker said this morning,
Right.
Look, I think this thing with federal contract workers raising their minimum wage, that's legal. We're going to keep monitoring this.
Well, right, because the president, remember, here's what he's doing, just for the sake of your understanding, Internet Titos. The president, what he's doing is saying, we're not going to make new contracts. The federal government, he's in charge of federal contracting. We're not going to make new contracts with people, this doesn't cover existing contracts, with companies that don't pay their workers $10.10 an hour or more. But that's only on new contracts. And how many federal employers do you, now, yes, there are probably, KBR probably has some folks working in the kitchen for the Taco Bell in Kabul that don't make, well, actually, they probably make plenty, but at an Army base somewhere or something, there are civilian employees who are in low hourly wage jobs. We're talking, though, about very few people.
It's not going to affect a lot of people, but I'd say, Chris, the big thing about this, if you can say there's a big thing, is that it's nothing new.
Right.
The president has now said this, I think, 4 years running. And so I find it interesting, to be charitable, that his big plan for 2014, his new plan that he will unveil in a major address, the State of the Union, is that he's going to bypass Congress and do everything he can with his pen and his phone and his, if he has like a pad like me.
Right.
No, no matter what,
and
let me say, look,
notes.
no matter what you think of the president bypassing Congress and relying on executive orders wherever he can, if this was the first time he'd ever done it, it might be of somewhat of interest.
Right.
Because one of the things we've learned, since it's not, is that it doesn't amount to much.
Exactly.
Because the president can...
Of course, he has been able to basically not implement any part of his law that was problematic. His signature health law, he has... I guess that's not through pen, that's through blog posts.
I guess if that counts...
Right. Not implementing your own law.
Going around
count.
Congress, that actually is a big deal. So I guess you'd say maybe the biggest thing he's done through this is what he hasn't done.
Exactly. Oh, Drucker, you're so smart. All right, so here's the thing. And here's what I want to know. For these Republicans in Congress that are... Boehner had breakfast today with important people. And they talked about, from the media, and talked about what you're going to do. The same reality always has played out in the post 2010 era in Washington, which is people make a terrible lot of noise about a bunch of different topics, but in the end, our lives are basically oriented around fiscal cliffery. We've got the next one coming up in February on the debt ceiling. Whatever the president's going to say a bunch of stuff today. This and Republicans today at AEI are going to talk about their plan on education. Republicans yesterday were talking about their plan on health care. Talking. But really, our lives are hang at the whim of the calendar, right? Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen?
I don't know.
Oh.
However, I can tell you what I think won't happen. I do not think we will have another 11th hour threat of default.
Really?
And so, yeah. And so I think what House Republicans are going to do later this week at their retreat, they're going to decamp to some fancy hotel in Maryland and try and figure out or at least solidify what they're going to do this year leading up to the election.
All right.
I think that they're going to try and come up with a mostly political strategy to increase the debt ceiling without doing something that can be described as completely clean, meaning just raising the debt ceiling with absolutely no sense of reform or debt reduction. Now, the Speaker said today...
Drucker,
yes.
We have to go.
Well, then I'll leave out the rest.
You're completely clean. But completely clean to you, your debt limit increase may not be completely clean, but David Drucker is here, wonderful for you.
And articulate.
And quite.
Articulate.
David Drucker, we thank you for making time for us. Have a great day. Internet, Senator John Hoeven of the great state of North Dakota will be with us. So will an expert panel. We'll talk about the State of the Union, what's going to be discussed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So stick around.
Hear my Democratic friends, when we are having casual conversations, complaining about the fact that they're not reached out to.
That is Phil Gingrey. It was Phil Gingrey. I guess he still is Phil Gingrey. He is a congressman from Georgia. He was talking to Power Play producer Lucas Tomlinson yesterday, talking about the president does not reach out and talk to members of Congress about things and working on ideas like people like Lyndon Johnson or even George W. Bush used to do. This is Power Play. Now, about that, why bother? I mean, kind of seriously. You have the most conservative House since the 1920s. You have the most liberal president either since FDR or Woodrow Wilson. Pick your flavor. The chasm, the ideological chasm, is so wide in Washington. Why should the president bother trucking down to Capitol Hill and glad-handing with people that are unlikely to agree with him on big issues? Testing my deeply cynical and cold-hearted view will be your friends, Jessica Ehrlich. She is a Floridian. She is a Democrat. She is a strategist. She is an attorney. So I like that if you run for office and then get indicted, Jessica can help you win and then represent you after the fact, which is always very important. Matt Keelan is self-represented. He is a Republican strategist. He is a New Jerseyan. He is a founder of the aptly named Keelan Group and a welcome guest. Hi, guys.
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
All right. So here's the question, Matt. The president has tried, and it's really painful when he tries, outreach. So we're going to have a State of the Union. He's going to get up and talk about the Congress just stinks. Like it's just a garbage pile and nobody likes it and it's terrible. And he's got to, sign stuff. And he will get knocked a lot. Democrats and Republicans will complain about the president not coming together with Congress. But really, this Congress does not want to give him anything. So why go through these terribly awkward dinners and other things that he's had where he tries to reach out?
Well, I would agree with you, Chris. If the president has no intention to listen to what people have to say, he might as well not waste his time. But there are many issues that he could work with Republicans and, quite frankly, more Democrats on to put people back to work, like the Keystone Pipeline, or just to stimulate the economy. But he seems to think of leadership as you're going to hear what I have to say,
right? You're
going to do what I want to do, or we're going to have a disagreement. Whereas other presidents, including George W. Bush, who was much more bipartisan than Barack Obama,
he was more moderate. He was. I think history will adjudge now that George W. Bush, who at the time we thought was fairly ideological, or Democrats, Jessica thought was fairly ideological, turns out was kind of pragmatic in his own way. No Child Left Behind and stuff like that, right?
And his tax cuts had a lot of Democrats that voted for it.
Jessica's not answering this question.
I mean, I would definitely.
George W. Bush, I guess what I mean is, compared to Tea Party, compared to the conservative movement that followed after him, now looks more moderate, right?
Well, yes.
She's not going there. She's not. It's hard. And we're having a hard time pinning her down.
Yeah. But I think really the issue that we're dealing with now in terms of Congress, especially having worked there under the previous administration, what we see now in terms of the polarization that's going on actually started, I think, in the Bush administration, where there became this real differentiation between Republicans and Democrats, going from the staff all the way up through the members, and it's only gotten increasingly worse. We're now seeing the culmination of that.
I think you could argue that really the Republican Revolution of '94 was the time when it started, and it was. Remember, Democrats had controlled the House of Representatives since essentially 1950.
40 years. 40
yeah, it was 1950. Let's see, they had won in 46. The Democrats came back in 48. So basically, since 1950, the Democrats had controlled Congress. So the Republicans won in '94, and Newt Gingrich came in, and he peed on a lot of stuff. They shut off the ice buckets and a lot of the old niceties. But my point about presidential and executive power is this. the president needs, Matt, to keep up the appearances that we're talking about here, to keep up the appearances of I'm trying. But for this president, and this is something Democrats do say, he doesn't have a gift for this part of it, for the come over for a drink kind of thing that Reagan used to do, or the Bill Clinton, like, I'm going to call you on the phone at midnight and be like, hey, buddy.
Well, at the end of the day, Chris, he's surrounded himself with staff that tells him that he's always right and he has the best ideas. And even people in his own party have said, I'd love to know who my White House liaison is because I haven't seen them in my office for the last 2 years. So this is Democrats on the Hill that don't even know who the White House lobbyist is. That's a problem. But at the end of the day, leadership is about leading.
Right.
Sitting down with people, and if you give them 20%, 25% of the final agenda, and you get to keep 75% because, as he likes to remind us, he won the election.
Did win.
That's fine.
Two times. He did win 2 times.
But
Jessica,
that's good.
We're going to give you extended rebuttal. Will you stay?
Absolutely.
Stay, okay, because Senator Hoeven from North Dakota is waiting to talk to you and us, so we want to hear what he has to say, so you stick around, Internet. And that's what it looked like when President Obama gave his last 2 State of the Union addresses. And based on what the White House has said, this one is going to look and sound very much the same. This is power play. So Congress is bad at being Congress, and the president is disappointed in them, the members thereof. So he is going to act unilaterally as is possible. What, however, could the president say that might bring some Republicans to the table for a larger discussion about the issues that he holds dear? John Hoeven might know. He is a senator from North Dakota. That is important. It is also important to note that he is one of those who has executive experience, having governed that great state. Senator, welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be with you.
So you know what it's like. You've been on the executive side of this. You've had to do this, and you've had to bring Democrats to the table and cut deals and make stuff happen. What kind of thing do you think the president could talk about tonight that would actually be saleable to both parties and bring a little compromise to Washington?
Look, everybody wants to get this economy going, and we can do it if you build the right kind of climate for economic growth. In other words, build the right kind of legal, tax, and regulatory environment that will encourage private investment rather than discourage it. So reduce the regulatory burden. Get pro-growth tax reform where you're not raising taxes, and work with the Congress to control spending and reform some of our mandatory spending programs, which we're going to have to do as we approach the debt ceiling anyway. Those are the kind of things that could really give the economy confidence and get businesses across this country investing and creating jobs.
Now, you guys out in North Dakota haven't had any trouble creating jobs of late because you have got an energy boom going on out there, and you are now representing one of the most prosperous states in the union. So congratulations on that. But for the rest of the country that doesn't have shale oil to call their own, what exactly are you talking about?
Well, but see, it's a lot more than energy. Energy in the western part of our state, oil and gas, people hear about, but they never hear about all the technology development, the advanced manufacturing, the value-added ag processing, aeronautics, all these other types of businesses that are prospering throughout our state because we've built that good business climate I just described, and that's really what it's all about.
Well, I don't want to short shrift, and I know the sunflowers also. So I do not want to short shrift North Dakota. All right. So as you point out, the next fiscal cliff is just a few weeks ahead. The Treasury Secretary says we're in a 2-week window now for hitting the borrowing limit for the federal government. What's the deal going to be?
Chris, right on. This is a big issue, and we need to tackle it. Now, if you talk to the American people across this country, they want, as part of any debt ceiling agreement, real savings and reforms that are going to help us get on top of this deficit and debt. And that, combined with economic growth, is what's going to get us out of our debt situation. Actually tackling the problem will help our economy by creating that certainty. And that's what people want us to do. That's the kind of deal the president needs to reach out to the Congress and say, let's figure this out. Let's work together, not have him go his own way.
All right, now I got to ask you, a few of your colleagues have an idea for what they would like to replace the president's health law with, if given the chance. From Senators Coburn, Burr, and Hatch, they have a plan that has been the wonk set seems fairly impressed by. Democrats not impressed by. Have you heard or seen anything about it?
So they're providing the right kind of approach, the kind of alternatives that we've been putting out to Obamacare, which empower people to make their own decisions about their health care providers and their health care insurance. That's what we need to do. We need a comprehensive step-by-step approach that empowers people. Again, the president needs to work with us on it. His plan, Obamacare, is doing very poorly. People are very unhappy, very concerned. It's hurting the economy. So why not reach out to the Congress and say, you know what? Let's figure this thing out. Let's get together on something where we can build consensus, bipartisan consensus, get the American people behind it, and go to work and get it done.
When Washingtonians complain about it being cold outside, Senator John Hoeven puts on his Bermuda shorts and laughs at them. Senator, we thank you for making time for us today. Enjoy the speech tonight. Great to be with you, Chris. Thanks. You bet. All right. Fortunately, to help us understand things, our panel is with us still. Jessica Ehrlich and Matt Keelan. Okay, guys. So Hoeven, I would say, is representative of a group of people in the Congress, in the Senate particularly, that would love to be part of some deal. They want a deal on this fiscal thing. They want a deal. I would argue, Jessica, that Democrats would be tremendously helped this election year, tremendously helped if they could actually pass some sort of a budget deal, some sort of a larger fiscal deal that, because the president scores like a 26 on handling of fiscal issues, if the president could come out and say, hey, we did a deal on taxes, we did whatever, that would, if I was running for re-election Democrat in the Senate or running for an open seat, I would be thrilled to see that happen in Washington.
Well, I think part of the larger discussion that needs to happen that isn't mentioned and that the senator didn't mention has to do with the middle class. I mean, in general, we're seeing economic improvement. All of the general economic indicators we look to are showing, and that's generally staying within the top 1%. There is job creation going on. We are seeing improvement. We went from a very bad situation to an increasingly better one. But what's happening in Washington in terms of this sort of ideological gridlock where the only way that we can get to a budget deal is going to be by making sure that we're cutting taxes and deregulating, where we're not doing anything in terms of unemployment insurance, in terms of raising the minimum wage and helping average Americans.
What I'm saying is that the Democrats need a fiscal deal. They don't need one. But if I was, let's say, running in Michigan, or I was running in Iowa in a tough open seat where Democrats are trying to hold terrain, wouldn't you love, Matt, to be able to come back to voters and say, Washington is starting to work again. The gridlock is breaking up, and we have a deal to do blankety blank with the debt ceiling and blankety blank on this? Because I don't feel like that Patty Murray, Paul Ryan thingamabob is going to feed the bulldog, right?
Chris, if I were advising the president and he were listening to me, which he does not.
This is not what's going on?
This is what I would tell him to do. I would say get John Hoeven,
right?
Senator Manchin,
Joe Manchin, you got
Senator
it.
Warner, and the rest of the governors in the room and sit down as executives and say, let's make some tough decisions. Here's the sad part about when they write the history of Barack Obama's presidency, if it were written today.
Right.
He had so much potential to cut a deal like this and to have a lasting impact going for the next 25 years that he has squandered because he continues to play partisan politics. And he doesn't consult with guys like Warner and Manchin that understand what it's like to actually govern.
Right. Mark Warner. Jessica, that's right. Mark Warner, he's in Virginia. What more would Mark Warner love to do in Virginia than come out and say, I brokered a deal, the senator from Plain, Virginia, brokered a deal with the senator from West Virginia, and we have a deal, and we love it. And people in Virginia would applaud him, and it would make, you will at least, regardless of the war on the middle class, you will at least stipulate that it would be politically helpful for Democrats this cycle to look like that there was something good happening on fiscal policy and spending and stuff.
I think it would be good for Republicans as well. I mean, what we're talking about is there have been these gangs of people coming together. There are folks who are in Washington, who are senators, members of Congress, who have been working together, who understand each other, who come from similar states and backgrounds, who want to get something done. And then you have obstructionists who refuse to negotiate, to sit down at a table, to talk about the issues. And that does a detriment to their constituents. And it does a detriment to, I think, the actual running of the government in general.
Oh, that old thing. Oh, that old thing. Oh, the government. We got to run the government now.
Because they want it to be dismantled.
Oh, well, it's a process. Doesn't happen all. It doesn't happen all at once.
Slowly, we'll just take it down each Congress, so they can get less and less accomplished.
You can't do it all at once, but we can't have segments all at once. So we have to say goodbye. But guys, we're very grateful. This was good. It was nice to see you here in person. Good luck getting back to Florida. You don't get to go anywhere. You stay here.
I'm going to Florida.
Oh, fine. Rub it in.
Everyone should
oh,
be in
fine.
Florida
Everybody's
right
going
now.
to Florida. Fine. Rub it in. Internet, I'll be here with you tomorrow. It will be excellent. And I should also share with you the viewer chat from CC Wahala, who says David Drucker is such a sharp dresser. Do his ties and pocket squares come as sets so that he always gets the colors right? No. Not matchy-matchy, CC Wahala. Never matchy-matchy. Never do that. But thanks for your time today. And now, as we like to do every day, a word from our friend Charles.
So he doesn't have a lot he can do. And the idea that you would tweet out a picture of the pen, I mean, God, how low can you go? I mean, it's just all he can do is to wave a pen.